I have ways of thinking, right? And I talk to you guys, and I share my thoughts with you. And based on, the way you guys respond to me and whatnot, I alter different aspects, and that model changes. And when I'm away from you guys, I make alterations to that model all on my own as well. And because I'm not arrogant, I share those thoughts with you guys because I trust that through your observation, it'll make my new alteration to my model of thinking more clearer or better, you see. But if, let's say, I'm off on my own and I make an alteration to my model of thinking, and then I don't have anyone to bounce that off, and I just decide to go forward, and just march on my own. And under the presumption that the new alteration to my model of thinking is sound. And then I do that again. And then I do that again. And then again. And then the bridge that I started was good in the beginning, but as it goes further and further out, the planks are, of less and less quality and fewer and farther in between is the picture I'm trying to draw.
Right. Fair.
Does that make sense? That's...
Yeah, but again, I would argue against if you were still able, going back to how I define sanity, being able to function in your world. Even if let's say you've gone, down a twisted, convoluted thought path, over years and years and years, going with your bridge metaphor, you're building different bridges of lesser and less quality. But if you're still able to function in your world, you're still able to get food, water, shelter, I would still classify that as sane. Even if I think the thoughts that you were thinking are probably insane, you're still able to function in your world. You're still sane. You're just crazy. You just have a fucking crazy thought.
Oh, exactly. That's why I called it some sort of consensus, is what I defined earlier. Because okay, here's a shitty example, but have you guys seen the movie Predators?
No.
Okay, it's the predators where they all get dropped on the island and they're all being hunted by multiple predators. You know what I'm talking about, Vicktor?
Yeah.
I can imagine.
And then they find Lawrence Fishburne, who has been stuck on that island, on that planet, for however long he is, and he's gone insane, and he's talking to himself and stuff, but he's completely functional. He's still not being killed by the predators on the game planet. He's surviving, but that dude is insane.
But see, I wouldn't necessarily call him insane. He's still able to function and live. His mental state might have deteriorated to a degree that from our sanity point, it seems insane, but he's still living and functional. I wouldn't call that... I would still classify that as sanity, just on the very low end of it.
That's the hallmark of a crazy person, though, Vicktor. Crazy people don't know they're crazy, right? Because they're long...
Well, are we talking crazy people, or are we talking insane people? Because you're right, crazy people don't know they're crazy, but insane people don't function in a society at all.
Oh, I'm under the impression that those words are kind of interchangeable.
I see. For me, they're separate definitions. You have crazy people being an umbrella term for a broad variety of mental disorders, whereas insane I would classify as a disconnect with reality somehow.
Okay. So you
wait. Insane is disconnect from reality.
Yeah, some sort of, again, the disconnect being that you're no longer able to function in your world.
Okay, see, so the declaration of if someone is insane can't be claimed until outcomes have been witnessed?
Essentially.
Right. Okay, so...
Otherwise, anyone can be insane for...
Oh, yeah, no, you can't. Okay, something has to happen first.
let me throw some things at your definition. And so, like, I want to bring us back to the idea that, what if I was dropped in the Predator Island, right? I'm coming from a very cultured environment. I have very few skills in just being dropped on an island and surviving. At what point do I become insane? If the outcome is I die because I can't survive in my new world.
See, and I would say if you willingly chose to go there, then you're
no,
insane.
No, I didn't. I was brought there.
Yeah, so then you're not insane for going there.
But once I'm there,
whenever you stop, if you weren't being hunted, if your life didn't end prematurely and you lost the ability to try to take care of yourself. Not saying, if you went out hunting and you tried getting food and after 3 or 4 days you couldn't find any food, couldn't get any food, you died of starvation, you didn't go insane. But if you, after 2 days, you just lost the will and completely stopped looking for food altogether, then you've gone insane, or an aspect of insanity has entered into you, or you've become whatever.
So just it's the motivation to survive is important.
Yeah, because survival is that like basic. It's not even human. It's animal instinct of find food, find shelter.
I don't know if like survivability, like how competent you are, has any. It's not really the conversation that I guess I want to have. Like, yes, there is a. Okay, so there are potentially multiple ways of having models of thinking that lead to successful survival, right? All right. Mm-hmm. And if you happen to not be in the same mode of model of that happens to be of functional survival that I'm in, I guess I would call that person insane, right?
And I would call that that's a more personal look at it or aspect of it. Like that's within you. That's within you, not necessarily within.
What I'm trying to say is that there's something that is altered and lost. One of those two words when a person is put into isolation.
I guess that's what kind of isolation. Because if you're in an isolation where you can't do anything, I can kind of see it where you'd go insane. That almost makes sense. But if you're on a deserted island all by yourself, insanity can happen, but it's not guaranteed.
Is insane a noun? Is it a verb? Is it an adjective?
Insanity is it's a noun, I would imagine. Yeah.
Or okay, so here's an example. Was fucking what's his face in Castaway? Was he insane? I would say no. He desperately he was desperately lonely, and so that twisted his mental thinking into Wilson, but I wouldn't call him insane, because he managed to survive, build a raft, and get the fuck off.
Well, what I would say is that is a slippery slope down the loss of sanity, and that was...
Yes, he got very close.
But, that's back to that metaphor. He was in the midst of building outwards of in his new models of thinking for outwards, and part of that was this conversation with the ball. Even though he wasn't, what's the word I'm looking for, irreparably or unretrievably lost, doesn't mean that his sanity wasn't compromised.
Sure, but I would still call him sane.
Oh yeah, so would I. But that's what
he just got right up to the edge of insanity and managed to come back. Or he was already out in the ocean.
I guess what I'm arguing is that process existed still, even there. It was taking place, even though he wasn't consumed by it.
But I would just call that, for me, I think I would call that an aspect of just that's how he survived. For him, it was a survival method technique.
Oh, you mean yeah.
Now, if he had continued talking to Wilson to a point where Wilson was telling him, "Oh no, you've already eaten. You don't need to leave the island." Stuff then he's gone insane. Yeah, he got very, very close with treating Wilson as a physical being, but he still managed to function and get off the island. So yeah, he got really, really close, and his psyche got damaged. and his thoughts got a little twisted, but I don't think he lost sanity.
Yeah, neither do I.
I don't really like thinking about it as like outcome orientated, but I would say that sanity. So I think that humans are there's a ratio. There's like an average ratio of how logically sound our thoughts are and how logically sound they aren't. Humans are not 100% logically sound, but I would say there's a norm ratio that exists there. And I would say someone who's insane is, I guess you could draw a line where the ratio of logical thoughts and illogical thoughts goes too far to one end. Fair. And I think cultural relative insanity would be, think of another ratio like that, but also consider the understanding the context of the society around you. And that can make you look insane to cultures, but then I think there's a standalone how logically sane are you as well. What do you think about that?
I think at that point we're just using the word insane because we don't have another word to describe what we're trying to say.
Yeah. So I think we've been dancing around a couple different definitions. It's been all interesting to poke around at. Or we're all crazy. That could be the case too.